go.
Okay, time to go?
It's past that time, yes, sir.
I'll call the special commission meeting for Monday to order. Ms. Kayla, call the roll, please.
Eastern Commissioner Bradley Jackson.
Present.
Presiding Commissioner Lynn Moore.
Present, you all join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all very much. Great way to start the day on a good rainy day. Okay, so today we have approval of today's agenda. We have the approval of last meeting minutes. We don't have anything typed up yet. Also, we have no financials today that I know of. The other items for consideration is why we're here today. Very important meeting. Highway Administrator Beatles. We're going to be discussing Green Bridge, the right-of-way, and commissioners are going to be weighing in on this. Hopefully we can come to some kind of decision today. And Commissioner Blue is absent today. We had hoped he'd be back from his New York trip, and that's why we had an 11 o'clock meeting instead of a 9 o'clock. And but he's absent, so the two commissioners will weigh in on this. We have Mr. Fax, our county attorney, here, and he's going to, once Miranda has gone through a timeline, and this timeline started back in 21, and kind of go through the process of what has transpired over all that time and why has it taken so long. I'm sure you all want to know and hear that too. And then when we hear all that, then Mr. Fax is going to give us options that the commission has going forward. And so we appreciate everyone being here today. And we are being recorded, so we're live. Everyone in the county can watch it live today on YouTube right now. And then also it'll be archived, so all of your friends and neighbors, anyone else interested in this case, can watch it later on, any day later on. Okay? So Miranda, if you want to go ahead and
I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Yeah. And I'll second that. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Kind of jumping the gun there. So Miranda, if you want to go ahead and start off with kind of giving us a summary of where we started and where we are today.
Sure. And let me start by saying this project has a lot going on with it, more than just the right-of-way, obviously. Like,
Can you just speak up just a little bit? We're having trouble in the back, too.
There's a lot to do with this project beyond right-of-way, but also with right-of-way. So as I go through this, I've got my laptop. I've printed out everything I thought would help me answer any questions. But if you have any questions, just interrupt me and I'll do my best to answer. But just to start, we originally advertised for our design contract with our consultant on this back in February of 2021. We started design in May of 2021, and it started before the ARPA funds were actually awarded for these 3 bridges. So we had started this using some local funds as far as the design goes, and then the ARPA was awarded in January of 2022, and then this project switched over to the one of the 3 bridges that we're designing with the ARPA funds. During that time, the consultant performed traffic reports, T&E, which is the environmental trees and bats, etc. We got our Army Corps of Engineers permit. They started their conceptual analysis, structural analysis, a hydrology study to determine how high the bridge needed to be. Also during that process, we had our first public meeting on September 1st of 2021, and that is where the consultant provided 3 different alternatives, alternative 1, 2, and 3. Public, it was kind of an open forum meeting. The public got to come around and look at each one. From that meeting, we left public comment open for 2 months. There was, you could physically fill out a form at the meeting, or we also had a website. The consultant created a website where you could click a link and submit your comments to that. Based on that, we had 9 folks chose option 1, 3 chose option 2, 4 chose option 3. So we proceeded with option 1, which is the design that we have today. We closed
Hey,
public...
Miranda, let me ask you, don't mean to interrupt, but
No, you're good.
I think this is important. I may be wrong, so let me know. Out of those 9 people that voted for number 1, the gentleman that still has not signed off, everybody else has on the right-of-way, that gentleman, did he choose number 1 to begin with?
That is what our record has.
Yeah,
So we
that's it.
only have three folks that we actually have their names. The rest were anonymous submittals to the website.
Well,
And the 3 folks happen to be 3 of the property owners that are on the corners.
And that's what I thought I remembered. I just wanted to make sure my memory was correct, is everyone signed off, the ones that needed to sign off, and that gentleman had chose number 1, and I'm sure later on you're going to talk about one of his ideas this lately, but okay.
Yep. So from there, again, we have those public comments open for about 2 months. Once the public comments closed, the consultant started creating the surveys and legal descriptions based on the preliminary design. And then in late summer of 2022, we started our first appraisal. We received it in November. That was presented to the group, I want to say on September 7th. Well, prior to that, but we met as a group in my building on September 7th, and at that point, all 4 property owners were there. Mr. Atterbury had brought in some paperwork, which I have here. At that time, the offer was $13,100 per acre. He was requesting $20,000 per acre, and he was also asking us to look into a heritage multiplier, some severance damages, a just compensation benefit, and then also some design changes to the roadway, which was essentially the majority of those design changes were on his side of the bridge. So it was moving the proposed intersection that we had of Hawkins, moving it over so that it didn't impact his property as much. But to note, that would impact the property of another person. It just relieved the impact to his property. So we took this information and went back, and we essentially got another 1.5 proposals, and I call it a half because we asked the first group to just update their numbers. So it was the same company, but one of the issues was that their comps were about a year too old for that group, so we asked them to update those numbers, which did produce a higher appraisal. And then we asked a second MoDOT approved group to also come in and do an appraisal. So I've been saying 2.5 appraisals. I've heard some people say 3 appraisals. Take that however you like. But we have 3 different appraisals. From that, those were essentially turned into offer letters for the 4 impacted corners. We took an average of the 2 most recent appraisals, and we removed the fence item. So the appraisals had a cost amount for fence in those appraisals, but what we typically do on bridge construction is we don't offer those funds up front. We take care of that when the contractor actually starts working. So when they know exactly how many linear feet of fence that they're going to disturb, at that point, we work with property owners. We've done it a couple different ways. We typically, what we say in our contract with the property owner is we will replace to existing or better condition. Some folks want the contractor to do that work. Some folks just want the money, and they will take care of the fence themselves. So we've done it a couple different ways, but there is a little bit of danger about trying to estimate how much fence you'll impact up front. It might work in the person's favor. If we don't impact that much, then they have some extra funds. But if we impact twice as much, then we find ourselves in an issue because we didn't actually put fence in our bid item because it had already been taken care of. So, like I said, long explanation, but we removed the fence from the appraisals and offered everyone an average of those 2 most recent appraisals. We have 3 of the 4 folks have signed off on the easements and right-of-way as needed. Those are recorded. So now more specifically to the Atterberries. Since it did not appear that we were going to be able to negotiate with them, at one point they told Great River Engineering, our consultant, that it didn't matter what the county offered, they were not signing. So at that point we went to the 60-day notice. That was signed for at the post office on January 23rd. Their 60-day notice expired this past Saturday. So today is the first day that we could meet to discuss this. And just for reference, the very first offer, which was back to that first appraisal, was $45,191. Again, we had that meeting where the request to update the comps and pop and get another appraisal. With that became, with the average of the two and removing the fence, and the damages, it came to $55,646.50, and that was the offer included with the 60-day notice. During that 60-day period, we have been contacted by the Atterberries a few times. In January, they contacted the commission asking for an extension of that 60-day notice, and at that time it was, we'll see where we are at the end, and if we need to extend it, that is something we can discuss today. But there was no need for an extension at that point because it was still a 60-day notice, and we were very early on. On March 7th, Great River met with Mrs. Atterberry. Their report was that she was in good spirits, seemed like she was all for the project. Her concerns were just centered around the fencing. Specifically the decorative fencing that is on the side that their house is on. They said that they would like to get a quote to replace the fence that we are expected to impact. What we got back was a quote to replace, sorry, I'll have to find this, but basically all 2,000 etc. feet of their fence, even though we're only impacting about 600 feet of their fence. The reason being was they don't want their fence to not match. So we got a quote for that, as well as a quote to replace all of the strand barbed wire on the other side of the road. They also wanted all of that to be new, essentially. So we got, even though our quote to them, our offer to them was $55,000, we received an additional request for $83,400 to replace the fencing on top of that $55,000.
I think, actually, Miranda, I think that was 2,500 square feet of total linear length is one, a report you gave me one time.
I do have that.
And you're talking about replacing 600 feet, and I believe something you gave me, if my memory is correct, was 2,500 total square feet, and that we're not affecting all those total square feet. But he was just worried about it wasn't going to match and look the same.
Yeah, it's we're impacted 600. We're expected to impact 609 linear feet, and we would be paying for an additional 1,600 linear feet of a state fence.
Yeah, so that's over
the original.
Over 2,500. Okay.
Along with 1,000 some feet of barbed wire. I had asked Great River, I said, okay, well, before I present this to commission, is this something that the Atterberries said, if you agree to the additional $83,000, they will sign? And the answer was no, it's just something they would consider. So following that, late last week, received word from Great River that Mr. Atterberry did not want to replace the fencing. He stated that he would sign if the county would not impact his fence at all, which sounds ideal, but that includes a redesign of that entire half of the roadway and the bridge, which is something that we do not have time to do.
How long would that take? If we decide to review and get back to the architects and engineers, how long would that take?
It is work that was started in early 2022. So we would, because what you do when you do that is, first of all, you have to have some geotechnical testing, but you also have to do your archaeological testing to make sure that the exact footprint of your road that you're building does not impact any of that. So if we move, we have to start over as well with a lot of our permitting. It sounds silly, but
So that could take us another year or two.
it could. It essentially puts us past ARPA, is what it does. As a counter, I asked GRE to contact Mr. Atterbury and see if he would be willing to relocate the existing fence. So essentially, have the contractor dig up each post by hand, break off the concrete, move the post back, reset the post. Unknown if that is something that would damage the fence or not, but it was kind of our last effort. I called a couple of our bridge contractors on Friday and I said, is that even possible? And they said yes, but it's a lot of handwork and it will probably cost you 10 times what it would cost to put the regular fence in. Just because it's handwork, it's individual people there doing that work, and that would have to be for about 300 or 400 feet of that fence where we'd have to replace the posts. I don't know if that's how it would actually come out, but that's the information that I gathered on Friday. I received a text right before this meeting that the groundskeeper for the Atterburys said that they're open to the idea of relocating the fence, but again, my thoughts are that is going to be the equivalent of that, pretty close to the equivalent of what they were asking for the new fence anyway. I looked at some fence numbers, especially the ones that we got for the Nelson Mill, which are just barbed wire, but we're looking at that decorative estate fence, and it can get very expensive. And then again, their concern is that they want it all to match, and if we were to damage one post, and their claim is that they don't make that fence anymore, which is why they wanted all new fence, I'm not sure where that puts the county. But again, that might be too much detail for right now, but there's a lot of fence thoughts going on. So that's where we stand. Oh, also, sorry, let me go back one more item. Last week when Great River was meeting with Mrs. Atterbury, he offered the $79,901. So in a session that I had with the commission, we agreed to offer him the $55, which was the average of the two quotes minus the fence and minus damages. But you authorized me to offer him up to the average of the two quotes just minus fence, and to give him those damages, which was the highest offer possible, was $79. Verbally, Great River offered that, and it didn't seem like there was any additional interest. So that is where we are today.
So Miranda, at $79,901, our last offer, that would, what do we have, about 1.6 acres of floodplain that we're land that we are...
So what we're asking for, the land that they will actually lose is 1.68 acres. So the warranty deed is written for 2.36 acres, but 0.68 of that is existing right-of-way right now. So that is subtracted out. It's a total of 1.68 acres. We're also asking for 0.03 acres of drainage easement, which gives us the ability to manage the drainage along the new alignment of the roadway. And then 0.59 acres of a temporary construction easement, which will go back to the property owner after the bridge is open and the construction is done.
Yeah, so to just make that clear, the 0.3 acres is land that we're going to take care of some water issues that actually...
0.03.
The zero, yeah. That's going to be land that even, we're going to do that project and it's going to make his land better too, right? It's
Yes.
going to help him alleviate some water issues that he has, and so...
Well, it's essentially like we don't build a road. We don't want to build the road and then say, "Here, all the stormwater is your problem."
Yeah,
No.
so
we
we're-
have to maintain the flow of the stormwater along that right of way and get it into the river or wherever it needs to go.
And then the construction part is just temporary, and then he'll still own that land. But that's, again, to make the whole project. I'm just trying to paint a picture of really how this is all being laid out. It sounds pretty reasonable as we've done this process.
So, other than answering questions, that's the summary. I'm here today to ask the commission how you would like to proceed with this project, whether you'd like to continue negotiating or if you'd like to discuss and move forward with the condemnation process.
Commissioner Jackson, do you have comments, questions?
I have a lot of questions, but I mean, so what we're looking at here is essentially the $79,901 as the offer, and potentially an additional $83,400 to replace all the decorative barbed wire fencing, but we still don't know if he'll sign off on that.
Correct.
I mean, I guess it's the unknowns that is so troubling here. Out of 4 property owners, 3 are ready to roll. Numerous people are being negatively impacted by the closure of the bridge. We just want to get the bridge built and paid for with the ARPA funds that we have available. I wish the property owner that's holding out was here so we could have a conversation to just finally get to the bottom of where we need to be.
Yeah.
I'm a property rights advocate, and I don't like the thought of condemnation and eminent domain, but yet one person is really impacting negatively a whole lot of people.
Yeah. And it's been difficult on our side as well, because the last 3 out of 4 conversations have been with the groundskeeper. And while he's a very nice gentleman, we don't know if or how he speaks for the family exactly.
Sure.
So yeah,
Well,
it's been...
a groundskeeper's not necessarily a legal representative of somebody.
Correct.
Was Ms. Atterbury not present at the time when we had our arbitrator that was trying to work with the group?
She was present at the March 7th meeting with Great River on site. And there had been some phone conversations between that time and now. The groundskeeper had sent the quote for the $83,400 from Carnahan White to replace the fence. But then last week, we had received word from Mr. Atterbury that he didn't agree with, I don't think he wanted all of the fence replaced as his wife did, so there was a little confusion. And that's where it came in, where he said, "I just leave the fence and move your road." And again, if I had the time and the funds to move that road at this point, I'd be all for it. But it's a timing issue, and it's unfortunate because the first request to change the horizontal alignment of that bridge came late last year. So at that point, it was even really too late to start redesign. We'd already done our structural and our permits and our horizontal final transportation plans. So the requests that I have received that I am 100% positive that he would sign about are things that we can't accommodate for him, which is not money, it's the redesign of the project. I haven't heard
on a
number
layout that our records show that he was in favor of originally.
back in 2021. But I will say, at that point, folks weren't told exactly how much acreage at that time would be taken or not taken. It was just the layout of the bridge, but it showed their property and where it would impact.
What's his total acreage on that property?
He's got, I don't have that number offhand. He does have a few parcels.
I think it's quite a bit of acreage.
It's not I know there's the parcel I believe that we're taking the 1.68 from is a 6-acre parcel, but I believe he has it close to 100 acres total on both sides of the road.
So
Yeah, and I can find that out.
So while you're looking, I mean, my train of thought is the fact that may be 1% of the total road, total acreage that he owns, and I know that is a valuable 1 acre to him, or 1.5 acres to him, but it's 1.5% of the total, and we're going to continue to see what kind of comments Commissioner Jackson has, but my main concern, and we have the auditor here, and I'm going to ask her something in just a second, because I want people to hear this timeline. But My main concern is public safety. I think it should always be every person in this county, whether it be elected officials or non-elected officials, we should always think of public safety first. And while this bridge is not open and it's closed, and while we're still, once we start building it, it's still going to be closed until it gets built and open. We are having a problem with public safety. And so I think the time has come that we've got to make a decision. So Ms. Amy, being the auditor, and I appreciate you being here today, so what timeline do we have? We have to start at a certain time and we have to end at a certain time to spend our money, or the federal government could start to take our money back even though we started, right? If we start late.
If we don't have all of these funds under contract, the federal government deadline is December 31st, 2024. If we do not have every single penny of this under a contract, we have to send it back starting January.
So if we don't start soon, and we don't have everything under contract, even though we're moving on, the federal government could claw that money back.
The federal government will pull that money.
Okay, they could claw back the money that we didn't have to build the bridge to begin with, and that would be a serious issue in this county. So that's something that us commissioners are going to have to figure out, because we cannot allow the federal government to give us that money. We're blessed to have the money, and if we lose it now, we'll never get it back.
It's 97.07 acres,
So almost 100 acres. So it's still
5 different parcels.
5 different parcels, and it's at 97, so we don't have 100, so maybe 2%. It's all basically on the floodplain, and so it's nothing that he's really built on right now, right?
It's still his land.
Yeah, I know it's his land.
But yeah, there's a significant portion of what we're asking for is in floodplain.
Okay. And let me ask you too one more question. I've got an audience question. So how many years have you been here as the county engineer?
Almost 10.
Almost 10 years. Have you? So basically we had 3 appraisals. We've had 3 different amounts offered. It continued to go up, considerably up on this 3rd offer. And have you ever, in doing these processes, have you ever had 3 appraisals required before?
No.
Usually 1 or 2.
Yeah, and we did, it's usually 1, and we did the 3rd appraisal. It was not requested by Mr. Atterbury. We had requested that one just to try and nullify any further issues.
I think the commission, just for the public, the commission that day, the 3 of us voted to make that 3rd offer, get that 3rd appraisal, make that 3rd offer to try to break the impasse. We were tired, and we thought, well, let's give the best offer we can, because every time we make an offer, it's taxpayers' money. It's everybody's money in this county that is added together to make an offer to somebody else. And so while this project is so important, we still have to protect all taxpayers' money, because a lot of people in this county, believe it or not, don't even know where Green Bridge is. We do. If you live on the east side, we all know. I drove out there this weekend, just drove around the way you come now. I just drove around and stopped 2 or 3 times and visualized stuff. Commissioner Jackson said he's been out there. So we are going out there trying to visualize what is going on and what needs to happen. So it's not like we want to continue to postpone it. There's where I think the problem is that we've already waited too long, but there's nothing we can do about it. Katrina?
Exactly how much acreage are you planning on using for the bridge? And, I mean, how much acreage are you purchasing from Mr. Atterbury?
1.6.
Yeah, 1.6.
It's 1.68 acres, which is purchased land, and another 0.03 acres that are drainage easement.
Which he still has use of, but it's...
It'll be a drainage ditch, yeah, next to the road.
Are we talking about the bridge or the road?
This is everything.
Everything.
This is everything.
The whole package finished, 1.6 plus 0.2.
less than 2 acres.
Yes.
Because I keep hearing 6 acres
Well, when the
somewhere.
bridge, when that first plan came out, when we all saw the first plan, he had 6 acres. It's written on those bridge, first page, it says 6 acres of his land was taken. And that's where we're coming up with the 6 acres, because that's what's written on that bridge page.
The
So
one-
I don't know where the 6 acres is.
The 6 acres is the size of the parcel that's right next to the river, where we're taking the majority, where we're requesting the majority of the right-of-way.
But he's not losing that 6, I mean, I
No,
know it's
he's
his
not
land, but
losing
that's not
it.
what you're...
No, I have, like, right here, I have the actual draft of his warranty deed. It's 1.68 acres.
Okay. So, but that, what
But
our side was...
part of his will be on the other side of the road now, right?
For the fence, the fancy
Yeah.
fence.
It'll split.
Yeah.
It'll split.
There's a 6-acre tract that this 1.68 acres is coming
Well,
off
I know on
of.
our side, it was 1.8 acres or something on our side. When that first bridge thing was all put out, all the different areas, we were
Yeah.
losing it. That's what it said. His was 6 acres, and that's why we're
It
coming
was
up
a
with 6
6-acre tract that it was coming off
Yeah.
of.
We
That's
had
where you're
the
coming.
tract labeled, and maybe that's where the confusion came
Well,
in.
it said, you know, it had our side, Haveland side, Dillon side, and it had his at 6 acres, 6.6.
Well,
He's not losing 6 acres.
no, and he's had a draft of this warranty deed since 2022. It's just the warranty deed is just the legal description with the map. The offer letter is what has changed.
Okay, well, it's partly our fault then, because we thought he was losing 6 acres. We thought you were using both sides and all the trackway down there where the bridge is going to go, the floodplain area down through there. We thought it was 6 acres that he was losing, so we've been saying that because that's what we thought it was, because that's what it was written out first, so that's where we come to 6 acres.
No. Like I said, this is 1.68, 0.03 of perpetual drainage easement, and 0.59 of temporary construction, which is just the one during construction that he gets back at the end.
And once you use that acreage for construction, you're gonna put it back? It's not-
Yeah, so...
I mean, we don't leave a big hole or...
No.
or
So what that is for, essentially, is when we're building these new bridges, they sit up higher a little bit than the old bridges. So your approaches are going to raise up to try to meet that bridge. So what the temporary construction easement is it allows the contractor to go in there and provide grading back down to the level it needs to be. Sometimes they have to go beyond the right-of-way to be able to do that. And then once that's done and it's seeded and sod and everything, it goes back to essentially being that person's yard. Yeah.
Okay.
But it's one of those things where you don't want to grade it and then just stop because you hit the property line. You want to be able to make sure it's graded and smooth and... yeah.
Okay. Commissioner Jackson, what other questions, comments?
Well, Mr. Green had a comment, and then I'll...
Yeah, those
finish up.
first 3 plans that everybody looked at, okay, they were dated by the architect of February of 17.
What year?
17.
17. If you look on the drawings, if you go back, you'll see where they signed off on them, the architect did.
I don't have them in front of me, so I can't...
I know.
I have them right here.
That's where the stamp is.
Yeah, I see that, but I think that was probably just from back when we were asking them to use...
That
to help
was
us
the
do
3
that.
drawings we looked at.
But 2 of those alignments were my idea, so there's no way those could have been... I think that's just an error with them
But
updating
that's
their
what was
title
shown
document.
to the public.
It was, but at that meeting, it was also discussed that these are the 3 new alignments for this project. And asked online and at the meeting for questions and comments. Those didn't change.
Okay, but you said it all was in 21 or something.
It was, but I think probably since 2015, we knew that we would have to replace this bridge at some point. So we've had the the contract, or the consultant do things for us here and there. We've also had small improvement projects that we've had to do on that bridge to try to keep it open throughout the years. So my guess is they just grabbed an old title block and put those on there. But they asked me what two of the original alignment that they were going to do was the one that tried to have the lowest impact of right-of-way to everyone, which was option 3. And then they had asked me, what do I want the other 2 options to be? And I recommended the one that realigns Hawkins and Greenbridge, and then also not having a curved bridge, which was option 2, where you kind of come in and there's still the straight bridge. So those options didn't exist before that public meeting.
So I guess one of my concerns is that, this project started before I was appointed to this seat, so I've had to do a lot of catch-up. But our meeting that we had last year, Mr. Atterbury seemed to be very defiant throughout the meeting and accused us we were going to come in and use eminent domain. So it didn't matter what he said, and it didn't matter, which we never talked about that at that point in time, but he was convinced that. So I feel that he's been adversarial since the very beginning, and I don't know him personally. I would like to know him to try to understand why we're having such an impasse here and hold up. But as we stand right now, any change to the alignment or construction is going to delay us past. So if we were to pull Greenbridge off its piers and put a bridge back in that exact same placement, would we be able to? No, it's impossible. These are the questions that people are asking me, and I'm trying to gain those answers for them. If Greenbridge is out of the way and you went right back into the exact same alignment, the road doesn't change, only the bridge changes.
I think if, based on MoDOT's closure, recommendation for closure to that bridge, and what it would take to even just fix that bridge and open it back up, to get through the design of that and the bid and the award and the et cetera, that we wouldn't meet ARPA with that.
Okay, so where we stand right now, we have no choice but to move forward with the design as proposed to meet the ARPA deadlines and guidelines. Which is budgeted by December 31st of 24 and spent by
26. End of 26.
Okay.
So we have to have all contracts in place.
Contract, that's what I meant. Signed contracts. Yeah,
All contracts
signed
signed.
contract. It's budgeted now,
On how much
signed
it is.
contracts, which we have plenty of time to accomplish that piece with the current, provided we could get through this impasse here. And that's the biggest concern to me. I guess the next point is, and every time we do something, we're utilizing taxpayer dollars, whether they come in the form of local tax dollars or ARPA tax dollars. That was our money that we paid into, that the federal government decided to penalize our grandchildren for and send it down here to us. But for that money, we would never be able to pull off these 3 bridges. So you have to take into consideration all pieces of that. Do we have available funds to meet the request of Mr. Atterbury?
Yes.
We have all available funds, even if he won't sign the 88,000 and he comes back with a different number. I think most importantly to me is we've got to put the bridge. We've got to move forward.
At some point it's going to be too much.
At some point it is too much, and even right now, looking at the sheer numbers, it appears to be too much because it's our taxpayer dollars that are being funneled to one person when we essentially look at many different options and considerations to get to the final point.
Yeah.
Hundreds of people are being held hostage here of being able to cross the bridge to get to goods and services or receive goods and services. And it's a shame that one person or one property owner is causing that. But do we just say, open up the checkbook and let him have what he wants to appease the hundreds of people that are being inconvenienced, or do we stand back and say, what is the best option? And I think that's what I'm going to direct over here to our attorney, is what is our best and direct option to
I think it might help to know what that process looks like, and everything it includes to help you make that decision whether opening the checkbook is worth it or not, would be my suggestion.
Because I hate the fact that 3 property owners saw the big picture, took a modest compensation for their inconvenience or their property, and one person is basically holding us hostage for a much larger amount of money, disproportionate to what these good community members have signed off on. It's unfair to them that we do anything above and beyond for somebody else.
That is true.
So it's a crux that we're at.
So, sounds like you really have 2 options. That's really just one option.
Okay, 2.
Your 2 options would be, obviously, you can choose to not go forward with whatever it is that you're doing and amend the project. As Miranda said, that doesn't really seem like a viable option at all. So if you're unable to reach an agreement with the property owner, your only remedy to compel what is essentially a forced sale is condemnation or eminent domain. What that looks like is sent you all a memo on this, but the high points of it, it's a 2-step process. So we draft a petition, and you've already gone through the 60-day notice provision, and it's my understanding you've already gone through 60-day notice, you've already gone through the negotiation process, which is part of it. So where you're at right now is to the point of filing a lawsuit. Lawsuit, it wouldn't take a whole lot of time to get one drafted. I bet we could have one done by the end of the week or within a couple days. I would need to get some information, but especially including legal. But we could get a lawsuit put together pretty quickly. From that point, we then file the lawsuit. It's no different than, well, it is different, but it's similar in a lot of regards to any other lawsuit we would file. You'd have to get service of process on the property owners, which typically has a 30-day return date. So you're talking about before you're even really instituting the lawsuit, you got to wait a month. From there, it's a 2-step process. Step 1, the court holds a hearing to determine the petitioning entity's jurisdiction to entertain eminent domain condemnation. You guys are Christian County. I don't have any question that you would have the ability to eminent domain, but you still have to have the hearing on it. Step 2 is the more important part. Once the court enters an order that says you have the authority to eminently domain something, the court then orders that 3 disinterested residents from the county are appointed to be commissioners. That's a little bit kind of like the Wild West, because the statutes doesn't give any other qualifications on those. Doesn't have to be realtors, doesn't have to be appraisers, doesn't have to be anything. It can be Joe Schmo and their brother can be appointed as a commissioner so long as they reside within the county. That's a little bit of the difficult unknown part of it, because you don't know who you're going to get as your commissioners.
Who makes that selection?
The judge does.
Okay.
Whoever the judge would be assigned.
I actually, just so you guys know, for Riverside, we had condemnation on that corner where we didn't, the resident lived out of state and didn't respond. In that particular case, the judge asked me to recommend 3.
Yep.
And I chose 2 realtors and a retired engineer. But yeah, it's...
I have seen that be all over the board. I have seen some judges that will come in and say, I want the county to give us 3 reputable appraisers, engineers, realtors, whatever it may be. I have seen some judges that come in and say, I'm going to let you pick one, and I'm going to let you pick one, and I'm going to pick the 3rd. I have seen some judges come in and say, Mr. Fax, I don't care what you have to say. I have my idea of who I want to serve as commissioner, and they will appoint 3 people who they want to serve as commissioner. So I've seen all over the board in terms of that. I've not had a Christian County condemnation case yet, so I don't know. You're probably either going to get Judge Johnson or Judge Cruz. I don't know how either one of those 2 handles condemnation in terms of appointing commissioners. I would think that they would both be open to recommendations. They're not just going to say, I don't care what you think, I'm going to appoint 3 random people. Once the commissioners are appointed, they meet and convene, which usually requires that they go out and look at the property. It probably should be more like an actual trial, but it's really not. It's more informal. They'll go out and meet at the property. They'll consider whatever evidence the county wants to submit. Hey, here are our appraisals. Here's what we think it's worth. They will also informally consider whatever information that the property owner wants to provide them. Hey, here's our appraisal, and here's what we think that the demolition of the fence is going to cost. And those commissioners will put their collective wisdom together, and they will come up with a number. Their number is sometimes based in reality, sometimes it's not. I don't know. But that's how you reach the initial point of that process. The commissioners will determine an award. From that point, the county has the ability to pay whatever the commissioner's award is to then take over that part of the property. Here you're dealing with a partial taking, not a permanent taking of all of the property. So you could, if you pay whatever the commissioner's award is, you're awarded the right of way at that time. Now, either party can then choose to basically, it's not technically an appeal, but it's kind of what it is. Either party can choose to appeal that to a jury trial. If you're the county, what that looks like is if you think that the commissioner's award is way, way too high, if you're going to take the property at that time, you have to pay whatever it is the award is that you think is way, way too high, and then you can make your case to a jury later on down the road. And jury trials, I mean, you're talking about, it's hard to set a jury trial within a year out. So especially if you're going 3 days to a week. So you're a little bit at mercy to what the commissioners are going to say is the value of that property. You can potentially get your money back on the back end, but if you're wanting to go forward with that property at this time, you've got to pay on the front end. And the property owner has the ability to basically appeal that in the same manner. So if the award is $79,000, the county pays it, the county gets the property. The property owner can then choose to take that to a jury trial and say, actually, the commissioner's award was too low, and the property owner can put on whatever evidence they have at trial, and if a jury determines it was too low, then the county's on the hook for whatever the judgment amount is, the difference between those two numbers. In determining damages with a partial taking, so you're not talking about the full 6 acres on the parcel, a jury's going to determine, and the commissioner should be looking at what's called the maximum injury rule. So not only just what the fair market value is for the 1.66 that
1.68.
yeah. So they're not only looking at the fair market value for the 1.68 acres, they're also looking for whatever is the maximum detriment to the property owner's property. So a property owner can put on evidence that, hey, it's going to ruin the aesthetics of my fence. Now, whether a disinterested commissioner buys that or not, I mean, that's going to be up to them.
There was a damages to remainder included in that appraisal offer, which might not, like you said, they might determine it's more or whatever, but that was in there to start.
Yeah, so it's not only valued based on the taking of the 1.68 acres, but also on the detriment to the remainder of the property. So you would get to present to a jury, and you would get to present to a commissioner to say, not only are they taking this 1.68 acres, but this is also negatively impacting the rest of my property.
So let me ask a question about that, because at that public meeting that we had last year, there was a couple different times Mr. Atterbury made the comment, but I plan to build something here in the future. That's not taken into consideration, is it? Because there's nothing there currently, and there may never, ever be anything there currently. So does the bridge negatively impact what might happen 10 years from now? Or does the
I would think that there would have to be something more than speculative evidence on
Yes.
that. So you'd have to have more than just say, well, I hope someday that I'm going to win a lottery and and I hope someday that we're going to rezone this to commercial and I'm going to
Sure.
build a Walmart. Now, if he does, I've got plans in place to turn this into a bed and breakfast. And
Yeah.
I've already got permits approved and we've already,
Well, then
gonna be
that's
something
not
different.
speculative anymore
Yeah.
necessarily. So, because I had a piece of property where this got brought up. At some point in time, there is the plan to build. And the appraiser looked at me and said, right now? And I'm like, no, in the future. Well, that doesn't matter. It's right now. I'm appraising the property as is right now. And so that's one of my questions. It was just a very argumentative process. It was almost as if he was daring us to utilize eminent domain, which is not something, like I said, that I want to do or would choose to want to do. So there's been a number that's been thrown around that eminent domain being an appraised value at 125% of appraised value. That does not count into this, or
Well,
is this?
maybe. There are some new statutory exceptions in eminent domain, one of which I think I heard Miranda talk about was heritage value. If the property is held within the same family for 50 or more years, you can talk about heritage value. And I don't know whether this
That'd be less.
property would qualify or not. Sounds like it's not. Heritage value's 150% is what
Okay.
you're looking at. There's also homesteads. If this is being used as a homestead, it could potentially be 125%.
Okay.
So,
There's not enough time to do this.
That's
Well,
the
and
biggest
that's-
I
point.
mean, the
It's
wheels
a-
of justice in the court system travel about as fast as the medical industry does.
Hey, you're not wrong.
Pardon?
You're not wrong on that.
Yeah.
You would be talking about the step one, probably not even start until we've got an answer on file, which means 30 days after they get served with a copy of the lawsuit.
There's
So
only
you're
about
looking
8
at,
months left.
yeah, you're looking at summer before you,
Well, I think that's, there's 8 months left in the year to be under contract, but we could be under contract in,
Been an award of 45 days.
so
So
that's
it's
not
not
a
ideal,
problem.
and I'm sure the auditor wants information prior to 12/31.
She probably would
24.
appreciate that, yes.
But no, it doesn't have to be constructed. I just
Yes.
have to have a signed contract and a purchase order with the vendor.
So October is basically when you,
If I put it out to bid in October, it can be done. Yeah, but anytime, I mean, if you all were to choose to go that way, the second the judge gives us the property, that can be put out to bid. So if that happens in July, August, I can go out to bid then.
Mhm.
well, and it may be longer than that. so.
Well, I'm just saying, like,
Yeah.
whenever it happens, we will be ready.
got Ted?
Okay, so you offered him $79,000, is that right?
Yes,
And he's wanting another $83,000 to put up his little fence.
yes.
Both sides of the street. Barbed wire.
With no guarantee that he'll sign that. His words.
I'll tell you what, that's the most expensive fence, barbed wire fence, and
No,
the little
it's a-
rail
Part of
fence.
it's decorative.
It's
a
not all
post-
barbed wire.
It's a post rail fence, is it not?
That's all
Three
right.
posts, it's a three post, they're very expensive.
Well, I hate to tell y'all folks, that's the most expensive fence I've heard of.
Well, he wants the 2,300 linear feet instead of the 600
I
impact.
think it's 25.
It's not that.
And it's Carnahan White, and they're expensive, they're good, and they're expensive.
Maybe, but
So,
Yeah,
so,
it's just so you guys know, it's 60,300 of the decorative and 23,100 of the barbed wire, and that comes to 83,400.
It cost me that much to rebuild down there every time it's flooded.
$60,300 for the decorative, 23,100 for the barbed wire. Thank you.
That's a lot of barbed
How
wire.
much? 21,000 for the barbed wire?
23,100 for 1,100 linear feet of 3-strand barbed wire fence.
So
The risk you run with condemnation is you don't know what
I'll be happy to build that.
commissioners can go rogue for.
Well,
lack of
go
a
get
better
it.
term. You don't ever know what it is that they're gonna do.
Now, so they're setting, then the commissioners are setting the appraised value,
Yep.
not independent. So there's the kicker right there.
They'll
Yeah.
have these documents.
Yeah, we will provide
They'll
everything
have-
that they have, but
as
they don't
you
have to
said,
listen to
you
any of
could-
it.
No, they don't have to.
You could have one commissioner that says, you know what, I hate the government, and the government's always trying to steal property, so
Yep.
I'm gonna award this. It's no different than civil trials happening in New York
But
City.
it has to be a unanimous decision between the three. So. you
It's true.
can- Yeah.
Okay, so Austin, what would the cost of the, approximate cost of the county for this law? If we started this eminent domain lawsuit, and we voted today for that, what's that initial cost to get us through step one, keep going? And at the same time that we file the lawsuit, could we not still be negotiating in all fairness to make sure that the offer is fair? No one should want to go to court.
I don't believe we have to stop communicating with the Atterberries.
Right.
Yeah, I want to
And
make
I
sure
would-
that we're trying until the very last day to make sure this doesn't go to court. But if we don't go ahead and file something, our risk, in my opinion, only my opinion, is if we don't do something, we're going to continue to kick this can down the road, and we are losing, we've had an early spring, we're losing a lot of valuable time this year. No one knew the bridge was going to be closed. That's why it's so important now that we actually act. What if we don't do anything? That's our option. It looks like that's our best option. If we don't do anything, we could be waiting months because his health is not very good. It's hard to talk to him. You've already said that. His health was good last June, and I saw how he acted. And I saw how he delayed. And I almost think we have to go ahead and initiate something, and then every day we try to work with them and see what would it take that none of us, doesn't he have to spend his money on the trial, his part of the trial?
Unless they wanted to represent themselves pro se,
I don't think he will
I
do
would
that.
suspect they'll probably hire an attorney.
Yeah, so we're all out money, and so I would say we're still negotiating every day, seeing what would it take to get them to sign the agreement, because once the agreement is signed, we all win. We all win.
Well, and we've talked about a couple of things. I talked with Freight River as far as like moving the fence, trying to move that. I can try to get a more exact cost of what that would be for them to kind of hand move the fence. We've also talked about, previously we talked about putting the design on the right-of-way line. We've talked about allowing them to keep some of their fence inside of the right-of-way, like not in the road or the drainage, but inside of the right-of-way, and revising the easement to match that. So we're still trying to tweak things a little bit to see if we can get to a place. But like you said, I don't know how long we should keep. I want to keep trying to do that, but it's nice to have both things maybe going at the same time so we don't lose anything. But yeah, my goal would be to get to a place where we're not redesigning the road, but we can do something for them to make them happy enough to sign. So yeah, I just wanted to, we are still kind of working on the fence.
What's the estimated cost on the bridge?
I think we're at 3.2 million right now.
3.2 million for
Yes.
Green Bridge.
What do you think it
What's-
was when we first started?
Well, I mean, the estimate we got in '21 was 2 something, but that's not, inflation over the past couple of years.
Right.
This year it's actually kind of leveling out, so that'll be nice when we bid, but all the costs of our bridges have gone up over the past 2 to 4 years.
Paula, do you have a question?
Carson is not the only fence company in that area. Can we not make him get other bids on the fence, or does he have this, that he wants to use Carson?
I suppose we could ask him to submit more quotes. This was just the one that was passed to us from the groundskeeper.
Well, Well, I don't think we should be talking to the groundskeeper, period.
I got a
Well,
question.
Why can't we
Sometimes I
just
fold
get
up.
bids from that same, from different companies and come back with it?
I got a question.
Hold on a second.
I'm sorry.
I was in the middle of a comment when I got cut off, so I'd like to finish where I was going with this before I forget. So the cost estimate, $3.2 million. It's all going to be ARPA funds. Should this project get, I'm just trying to prove a point here, should this project get delayed past the ARPA, what is the proposed timeline in which we would have available $3.2 million worth of funds to replace this bridge?
Local funds.
Yeah, local funds. Maybe you're lucky and you get a grant.
No, auditor. I mean, I think we've got like almost $1 million in the 235, but it was planned for other things.
Yeah.
So I think maybe
10 years.
10 years, but also in those 10 years,
It's not going to be $3.2 million.
It's not going to be 3.2.
Yeah, the inflation
well, but
It's gonna be
also all
five
the other bridge
plus.
improvements we had planned to use those
Sure,
funds
sure.
for will not happen.
I'm trying to set a
Yeah.
timeline here in which to justify the actions that we may potentially be
Yeah.
taking. So going back to the fence line, and in one of your originals to them where we were going to take care of the fence.
Mhm.
We'll replace the fence. New or better condition than what it currently is in, or same or better condition than it's currently in.
Yes.
And he's rejected that option.
Yes.
That option then gives us the ability to choose who we're going to hire to put the fence in, whether it be county workers, subcontracted workers, ABC Fence Company, whoever. He's choosing or wanting to utilize a specific company for whatever reason.
Well, he's wanting to replace the entirety.
Well,
of the
yes,
fence
and
as
the
well.
entirety of the fence, but even replacing the entirety of the fence to all match could come from a multitude of different suppliers and providers. Okay. So really, I mean, we're just kind of, in my opinion, have a couple of options. Now, I'm more inclined to make a motion potentially to set a date at which we will file a lawsuit, still giving us 14 days maybe to continue having conversations with him, but he knows that now the date is coming, it's set forth, we've got direction for the attorney, because as I've said numerous times, eminent domain is not something I like, but at the same time, handcuffing and inconveniencing half of our county is not an option either. I really would like to try to work out something with Mr. Atterbury to resolve this issue and not break the bank and not penalize our taxpayers by paying out more money so he has the pristine and perfect fence that matches from one end of the property to the other. And I've kind of like our collector, I've built many fences, and I can build a lot of fence for $23,100. You know,
That's the bottom.
Have you
That's just
offered
the
for
barbed
him
wire.
for Ted to come fix it?
That might be
'Cause
the
that might get
seal
it done.
of.
What's
the-
that?
I said, she offered for him for Ted to come fix it. I think that
That
might get
might
it
be the
done.
seal on the whole.
I tell you what, I'd help Ted fix that fence. But
Got two boys that.
a lot of experience in fence building.
The other thing too, are they represented by council now?
Not that I'm aware of. They may be, and of course, in the 60-day notice, it advises them to be.
Yeah.
But I have not heard if they are, or who that might be.
This seems like a case that would be ripe for a mediation. And the good thing about a mediation is you get people sat down in the same room and you don't leave until you get something
Yep.
hammered out.
Yeah.
No, well, we'd consider this. No, you need to get an agreement, or you don't have an agreement.
And I think that's the tough point here for me, is that where is Mr. Atterbury and Mrs. Atterbury? I mean, I would much prefer to be sitting in the room and hammering out the details, because the back and forth is causing delay. The back and forth has caused delay. And we have got to come to a consensus and start moving forward, whatever that may be, even if it is, the use of an eminent domain proceeding. I would much prefer to not get to that point. And there has to be a mutually respectful compromise here.
Yeah. Well, and to your second question, I mean, you can settle it up to and through jury trial. I mean, if that's where you ultimately ended up, you could resolve the case at any time.
Mhm.
So it's not like we just filed the eminent domain and then, well, we've gone the round of litigation. I mean, you could resolve it, you can get them served and they have counsel, and I come in and say, let's try and mediate this thing and get it done, save everybody money.
So from a legal opinion perspective, if you were setting in a scenario like this where the party A was part of the process from the beginning, we have evidence that they chose a specific design layout, that's what they thought was the best, and they approved that, and we have documents of that, but then they fought us every step of the way. Does that put us in a more advantageous position through this mediation and or eminent domain trial?
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like they're being waffly enough that you probably are going to need to go the litigation route, would be my guess.
Okay.
Can you sit down with them, though?
That's my goal.
And not violate the sunshine law?
One of them.
Yes.
You'd have to do it open?
No, we would not. It's a real estate issue. We can go into closed session and
Just
sit
curious.
down with them. Yeah, and that would be an option I would like to pursue.
Or any one of you could meet with them individually.
Sure, and that's another option I'd like to pursue.
Yeah, they'll knock on his door.
But one of us sitting down with them brings us back to the back and forth.
Yeah.
Unless somebody can get them to agree to something, sign the documents.
I don't love eminent domain condemnation because, in addition to the reasons you've talked about, from a lawyer's standpoint, there's also the unknown of what the commissioners are going to do.
Mm-hmm.
So if there's a small discrepancy between where they're at and where we're at, my advice is usually get it worked out. But in this case, they've not even indicated an agreement to accept anything.
Yeah.
So I don't know where that leaves you other than litigation.
Yeah, I mean...
Well, let me ask you this. So it looks like when I took some really good notes about how you were explaining our different options, how everything was going to play out. You're looking at probably 1 to 2 years. It could be 1 to 2 years on getting a court case and all this stuff. I mean, it's not going to be very fast.
If it goes to a jury trial, for sure.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
the worst scenario could maybe get a decision in 2 years, even a decision we don't like. But I do agree. We've, Miranda and the commissioners and you, we've had meetings at that table with all parties, and we've mediated things since I've been here. I believe in compromise, and I believe in working together to come up with a fair compromise solution for everybody. And we've done that, so we've proved that we can do that. That would be the best thing that we do and we started this week. We don't wait. We don't wait.
I think you need to, but I also think you need to, we've had a lot of trouble getting in touch with them and being able to set up meetings. I know there's been some issues with Mr. Atterbury being able to attend things.
Well, that's what I was going to say. That's the first step.
Yeah.
We need to mediate. I think everyone's going to agree that we need to work together, come up with a positive solution for both sides that's fair, and let's move on. But I think we also should maybe vote today. I mean, we could file an eminent domain lawsuit. We're not going to be out too much money to begin with, and it's going to take some time anyway to get that process done. During the same time, he's going to be notified that that's what we're going to do. But I think we also notify them, hey, we don't want either party to have to go through this process, this ordeal. It's an ordeal. We don't want that. And so we are willing to work with you and meet with you and your representative, whoever you have, and let's iron out something that gets this thing done. Then we can drop that, can't we?
Sure. So the benefit, when I talk about mediation, what I mean is utilizing a third-party neutral.
Yeah, that's fine.
And one of the benefits to that is so many times when citizens are negotiating with government, they feel like, well, it's my government against me. The benefit of mediation here, or using a third-party neutral, would be there's somebody who's in both of those rooms, and they're able to, it's somebody that they can talk to openly that they feel is not, there's obviously going to be a distrust of government coming in trying to take your property, and I understand that, but hopefully the idea would be to let, either we pick or let them pick a third-party neutral that can come in and say, I'm not on anybody's side here, I'm just here trying to get this resolved between the two parties. And that can happen, yeah, you're right, that can happen now, that can happen tomorrow, that can happen after we file a lawsuit. It could happen at any point in the process.
That could add fuel to the fire almost.
It
That would
could.
Double-edged, come back to haunt you type.
You're right, I mean, filing a lawsuit does have the ability to either bring people to the table or get people to dig their heels in,
Yeah.
so to speak. So it could do either one of those two
Something's
things.
got to be, proceed forward one way or another.
Yeah.
Or there may be another option that we could make a motion, we could vote on it, that we are in the position to, let's say, file a lawsuit in eminent domain in the next 2 or 3 weeks. It gives us time. He'll be notified, so we haven't done it yet, we haven't filed yet. But if we can't come to a decision between the two parties, then that's what's going to happen. That gives him I don't want to give 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, because we've already been given 4 weeks, and it's turned into several months, and it's turned into a year plus. And so we've given. And so I think we have to send a message to him that we're prepared. Nobody wants to do this. I've even had citizens call me and they say they want the bridge, but they don't want eminent domain used. Well, we're almost to that point that we have to do something to get that bridge built. So maybe we could give him a warning shot by saying that we look at our calendar and saying that if we don't get an agreement by both parties at a certain date in April, we will file an eminent domain. Now, knowing that it could take 2 years if it goes to trial. And I don't know, and at that time, we're still going to have to be negotiating the entire time, because the bottom line is we just need to get this done.
And the funding will be lost, though, if you...
Oh, yeah, we only have, that's why the auditor's here. She's very good at keeping track of our numbers and our money, and so we know what we would do. My opinion is what I stated in June. I don't know, if any of you were there, but my opinion in June was, I told Mr. Adberry this, that and I know some of the landowners were there. This county cannot afford to lose $3.2 million that we put on that bridge. We can't afford it. But what I told Mr. Adberry is if that bridge didn't get built and they kept making delays and delays and delays, I'm only one vote, but I would vote to spend that money. If I can't build the bridge and we can't come to an agreement, I would spend that money on stormwater projects and everything else, only on the east side. Whatever I was going to spend, that money would be east side county, not west side, but east side county, to help the most of the people on that county, because I didn't want to lose $3.2 million, because we only have $1 million to even start on our own. And so we know how important that is. And I was just trying to prove a point to him. You don't lose the bridge, but if you lose the bridge, then we're going to spend it somewhere else on people in the east side. And I don't think that's what we want to do, but we don't want to lose $3.2 million. So so every week that we give him is just losing track with the auditor. Yeah.
I had a question. Miranda said something about revisions, so they could move that on the north side, away from his property. And have we used the same engineer throughout the whole project on this, or is there a new engineer now?
Same one,
Same one.
same engineer.
That puts it closer to the river, moving it north, correct, Miranda?
Is there any way that could be moved north?
You've got
away
to go
from
through
Atterbury's
that.
property.
You've got to go through
Yeah.
all that
So-
and check your,
It's a whole year-long
The
process.
problem
It's a year
is, it's
process.
not as easy as just moving the lines on the drawing. So all of the permits that we've received in the Army Corps of Engineer permit usually takes 8 to 12 months to get. All of those are based on that alignment that we are planning to move forward with. All of the archaeological testing that we've done, all of the tree and environmental studies that we've done are based on that alignment. If we move that alignment anywhere, we have to start over with all of that stuff.
That's what
So
you-
that's what takes the time.
plus your money's already gone
Yeah.
out.
Yep.
Yeah.
I just,
This is only my opinion. I would send a letter to him stating that we're going to file a lawsuit in 2 weeks. And if we'd like to have an arbitration, try to work it out with you. And if we do not able to do that, then we're going to file a lawsuit. And we want to move, we'd really like to work it out with you. And we mediate with you and take care of it, because we have to have this project started this year. And just lay it on the line with him and say,
And Ted will
That's it.
build your fence.
Yeah. I already
and
threw that
we have people
idea
that will build your fence.
I want to maybe offer something. And I know I'm the engineer that just wants to build the bridge here. But sending a letter, he may get that letter in 3 days. He may read it in 5. Then you have a week to meet, and then you're going to file. And if he has, this is an open meeting, so I don't want to go into it, but if he has reasons why he can't meet, then what do we decide? Do you extend that time because he's unable to meet? I guess my point here is I'm looking back at this negotiator report, and the June 27th of last year, we met everyone on site at the bridge. I remember I had to leave early because I went to the dentist, but it was very hot, and we all met out there. At that point, Mr. Atterbury asked me about, do we just accept these offers? I said, no, you can counter at that time, and we'll meet that. On July 18th, Great River contacted him asking him for an update on his counteroffer. He said he'd have it to us by July 24th. We did not get it on August 1st. We called to ask if he had received it or if he was going to send it. No response. August 23rd, no response. August 24th, we were trying to set up a meeting for the 29th. Mr. Atterbury couldn't make it, so we moved it to the 7th at 2:30, and that's where he brought the counteroffer. So 2.5 months later, we got a counteroffer. I don't, if that is what the commission chooses to do, is to try to work it out in the next 2 weeks and then file, I support that. I'll support whatever decision you make. But my recommendation would try to do both at the same time. I don't, waiting a month is 1 out of the 8 months that we lose in this year trying to get this project done. And also, like Mr. Fax said, this also allows us to go to that mediation point. I just want to offer that up, that things haven't moved very fast now, so I just want you to keep that in mind when you're making your decisions.
Well, Miranda, I agree with you because, we've seen the history. We've seen the history, and the history right now proves that we're not going to get a quick decision by him, not even a meeting. I would be more apt to hear a motion to go ahead and start the process. At the same time, make it very clear to him that we're still very, very interested, and we think it's for the best of both parties that we come to an agreement before we have to go through this process. But we have no other choice but to start it. And then, we'll all celebrate.
I think you can still request a meeting with them.
We can discuss, we can have meet. I will work, I'll go with you. I will meet at nighttime, Saturday, Sunday. I don't care. I don't care when it is. There is no excuses for us on our side. We will accommodate his schedule. No matter what it takes, we should accommodate his schedule and see if we can get an agreement. And make it clear that that's what we're going to do. We're going to work extremely hard, but if he can't come to an agreement with us, then we've already started the process. And knowing that that's a really terrible process because it's going to cost us money, and it's more importantly going to cost us a lot of time, and something definitely could happen in that time that that bridge is closed. Something that's very negative for this county.
I think it's also, no one in here is a proponent of condemnation, and if it gets to the point where the commission doesn't want to move forward, even if you haven't met negotiations, you can cancel your...
We could cancel it.
The only downside to that is if you go that route, you might potentially have to pay his attorney's fees.
Yeah.
If we cancel, but what if we get an agreement in the next 30 or 60 days?
Yeah, I mean, if there's a settlement
it's
worked out,
going to save
you're
us.
fine.
It's going to save us.
I'm saying if you file a condemnation and then you later decide without an agreement, hey, we want to dismiss this, then you can be on the hook for
Pay for
attorney's
his
fees.
time and trouble.
Yeah.
And I will tell you how important I think this is to the county. This is the first meeting that I've had that we've called, and we called it a day early. We could have this meeting tomorrow, and Miranda and I called it a day early because that's the fastest we could call it after he didn't sign at 5 o'clock on Saturday. The other thing I want to point out is Commissioner Jackson and I are here, and Commissioner Blue is not here. And last year and again this year, I've never called a meeting that I don't have 3 commissioners here when there's an extremely important vote. This is an extremely important vote, and I don't feel comfortable with just 2 of us being here, forced us to both vote. I can vote, but I don't feel comfortable without 3 commissioners being here on these important meetings coming up this year. And so this is the first time that we've had a commission meeting without 3 on days that I knew we had a tough vote. So I believe this is an exception, and we should make it today because, again, you read the history of Mr. Atterbury and all the things that have gone on that has just delayed all of our lives, and we need to go forward. So.
And I think for Mr. Atterbury, none of this really truly affects him.
No.
He could care less if the bridge is ever open. I'm sure he never ever goes over it. So it doesn't matter to him. He doesn't care whether we lose ARPA funds. I mean, it's really no skin off his back.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's just
Only thing
it's
they
an
worry about
unfortunate
is those deer
situation.
down there in the field. Nobody shoots them.
Yeah.
At what
Yes.
point do the ARPA funds come into Christian County bank account?
We've already got it.
They're sitting in our
So
bank
the
account.
interest, just on that money over this time period, should pay whatever Atterbury needs, I would think.
Well,
I think that's something that I discussed earlier, but at what cost? At what cost? And that's the burden that we're going to have to make a decision on. Do we overpay for an asset just because we have the available funds and we can do it? But that's a disrespectful way in which to go when everyone else that was affected settled for a much lesser piece. Yes, I do believe the money's there, and but even at that, $88,000 for the fence, and he still won't sign it, or he hasn't agreed to sign it yet. So what would that number be?
Well, that's 1.5, 50%, right? So if it's 160,000, 50% is another.
Well, that would be the
100,000.
independent third-party appraisal of
Right.
the project, not the 3 commissioners. The 3 commissioners may say it's worth $1 million,
And they may say it's worth $1,000.
and they may say it's worth $1,000.
Yeah,
It's a
because
gamble.
I'm just saying that there may be a little gray area cushion
Sure.
from the interest. I know saving taxpayer money is,
It's paramount.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a big deal. I mean, every penny that we spend is one less, tenth of a mile we can chip and seal, or we can asphalt, or one less, low water crossing we can change over to a box culvert. I mean, all those pieces are of a concern to me because the majority of our citizenry feel that they're overtaxed as it is. But yet we don't have enough money to pull off a lot of the projects in which they would like to see us have done. This is that golden egg that got thrown at us, a couple of years ago. That now we have the ability to pull off these projects, but still at what cost? It's our taxpayer money, even though it came in the form of, monopoly money that was printed and sent down to us, which has caused the cost of every single thing that we have to go up through inflation. So our $2.3 million bridge is now $3.2 million bridge, because we've generated all of this fake money, if you will. I'm not, today I will not make a motion to do anything with eminent domain. I'd like to revisit that. I'm torn between 2 to 3 weeks. 2 should be ample time. Now, I'm not saying that the county attorney can't be prepared and start doing whatever attorneys do. I'm just saying, I'm not, at this point today, I'm not willing to make a motion to pursue eminent domain, but I will work diligently to try to reach out to Mr. Atterbury and start having conversations with him myself.
Okay.
I'll be the first to admit that's not something I've done, and it may be pointless, quite possibly might be pointless. I've allowed the professionals to have those conversations, whether it be, you know, our staff or Great River Engineering, but I'm not ready to move forward with eminent domain today.
Okay.
So
And I may be wrong. I may be
My
wrong.
opinion, you are.
I may be
So
wrong.
it's time you want to give this, yes.
2 weeks.
2 years, Brad.
I understand.
Well, do it then. Do something about it.
It's easy to sit in the audience and tell me to take somebody's property.
You're not taking it. It's very much. You're buying it. You're not taking it.
Well, buying against their will is in essence taken. But I'm not going to let this drag out. I promise you
One
that.
man. You're in for one guy over all of us.
No, I'm not. I really am not. I'm trying
That's
to.
what I get.
I'm trying to work toward. Well, I think that you. I think you should know me well enough to know that I'm not just going to roll over for one person.
How long
But
have
I
you
am
been-
willing to try to protect all of our taxpayers and come to a consensus agreement. I would do it for you, I would do it for you, I would do it for you, I would do it for anybody. But I'm not going to let it continue to drag out. It can't drag out. But 2 weeks is not going to put us behind. And if in 2 weeks that I've been stonewalled,
Been way too long already.
if in 2 weeks that I've been stonewalled, I'll make a motion. But I'm not going to do it today, I'm sorry.
Can you make a motion that in 2 weeks you file, if you haven't come to an agreement with
I would
them?
like Commissioner Blue to be here as well. If we're going to put our county in a position to utilize eminent domain, it should come from all 3 commissioners, not just 2 of us. At least all 3 of us here eligible to vote that day.
Has this county ever done that before? I understand that the question is no. Did I know?
Yes.
Utilizing
We've
eminent
done-
domain?
We've done eminent domain with
On
Riverside
Riverside
Bridge.
Bridge.
Oh, okay.
And that was an out-of-state, a guy from California that never, as I understand Miranda said, that he never answered any letter, certified letter, nothing.
He never responded.
Never
He
responded to
didn't-
anything.
Yeah.
And it was a very small piece, .6 or something, very small
It
piece.
was, yeah, it was .08, I think.
Yeah, very, 08, very small
Yeah.
piece, but we had to have it to get Riverside Bridge. Look at that bridge, look at what that's done for people in this county. And so we can't wait forever.
No, we can't wait forever.
And so that's why we used eminent domain on that too. You know, I understand what Commissioner Jackson's saying. In Jefferson City, I voted no twice on eminent domain. So this would be a different topic, but I would make the motion today to go ahead and start it and notify, and either way, I'd like to start it today, send a signal that this is the serious moment of time, and at the same time, work like hell to get this thing settled. And and you can work night and day, I hope you do. I would work night and day. I like to work Saturdays and Sundays. I don't mind, but somebody has got to break the impasse, because we have wasted way too much time. And we've let one man just potentially harm hundreds of people. So I would make the motion if you would second it today to get it started. And I agree, but the thing is about 3 commissioners. What I said a while ago, I don't like to take any important vote without 3 commissioners. But Commissioner Blue would tell you that he is on the west side, and so he's not on the east side. I guess he probably knows where Green Bridge is, but he really is concentrated on the west side, that's his area, and Commissioner Blue is concentrated on the east side, that's his area. East side's always been my area.
I'm Commissioner Jackson.
Commissioner Jackson.
Mr. Morissette made a great point a minute ago that sometimes utilizing that threat could cause him to dig his heels in, and that's why I'm holding off on that. And you know, I'm going to tell you guys, if I'm wrong, and in 2 weeks I'm wrong, I'll come to you with my hat in my hand, I'll say I'm sorry, and we'll move forward.
So are you saying 2 weeks from today?
2 weeks from today.
We're going to send a notice out?
2 weeks from today.
I mean, we're going
Well,
to...
let's outline this a little bit, if you don't mind. So, you, at least you, are going to be reaching out to the Atterberries.
Sure. And I will talk to them about putting this thing to rest, or bringing in a third-party mediator, and let's put it to rest. And if I get stonewalled, I get stonewalled, but at least I'll give it one last effort.
I believe on the 4th you all are having a commission meeting. Do you want to go ahead and set your vote for this for the 4th?
You're talking about April 4th, that's a Thursday?
Which is a week from this Thursday, almost 2 weeks, unless you wanted to have a special session on the 5th.
No, April 4th is a good time to, I'm okay with April 4th.
That's essentially 2 weeks, that's close enough for me.
So
April 4th.
So on April 4th you'll have the vote too.
If Mr. Fax is prepared by that time to provide us again additional advice and anything that goes with it, then
I'm going to be in trial on the 4th, but
Right. Well,
but I can
no.
have you whenever you want before then.
I think we might have some legal questions, though. So,
We can do the 5th.
that's a
That's
Friday?
My worry is that if you go into the following week, then
No, I don't want to.
we're into
I don't
the
want
third
to.
week.
I've got a meeting
It's a good point.
Friday at 9 a.m. over at Nixa. I could try to change the schedule, but we could do a meeting at 10:30 or 11 too on Friday. I'm willing to, I'd rather put it forward instead of putting it backwards. So if Friday the 5th is okay,
That's
like
fine with me.
at 11 a.m. again, on Friday, 11
Yeah, I can make
a.m.
that work.
Okay, I'm Ted.
So are you going to send a letter to him stating that you are,
Contemplating.
that you're...
There'll be a vote on that day.
I'm gonna have a conversation with him, or attempt to.
Are you going to send him a letter, though, that you
We're not-
want to go to the
We're not,
mediator, or...
we're not required, at this point, his 60-day notice was all that's the part that notifies him of what's happening and advises him to get counsel, et cetera. We're not required to send him any additional letters. But my thought is if you draft a letter, review a letter, send a letter, he might not get it till Wednesday, Thursday. I would prefer that they reach out ASAP to...
Well, I mean, you could do both.
You could do both. I don't know that we need to.
I'm gonna try to be as personal as possible.
Yeah.
As soon as we adjourn this meeting and I grab my jacket, I'm gonna drive over there and see if I can't have a conversation. Or I'm gonna make a phone call. It's probably-
Don't come in from 125 because you can't go across the bridge. Come on, Brad, I'm messing with you.
Absolutely.
And you're going to do this with yourself, no other engineer or anybody? You want to
Just gonna have a conversation. If we need to bring
Conversation.
in additional people, and we need to bring in a third-party mediator, I mean, we need to have I need to have a conversation.
You're going to have it with the Atterberries, not as groundskeeper?
I don't wanna talk to the groundskeeper.
Won't help to have a
You know?
groundskeeper.
And if he has an attorney, I'll let our attorney have a conversation. Don't do legals.
Well, if you can do that, Commissioner
But
Jackson,
I
I'm
just-
going to pray for you because I'll buy you a fried chicken dinner over at Rosie Joe's if you can pull it off. So,
Well, that's not the point. The point is
Well,
just is trying to make that one last
Okay.
communication. And believe me, I feel for everyone sitting over here. And I would do the same thing for you, but I'm not gonna drag it out past the 5th. I mean, we've gotta come to some kind of conclusion. And if I'm wrong, you'll get an apology from me, every one of you. But I think it's the last and least thing I could do.
So, Mr. Fax, could you have the lawsuit ready to file on the 5th?
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah, I
Yeah,
think
he's
we-
gonna
That would be my recommendation.
He's gonna, yeah, that's what I said, he's gonna do his lawyery things.
The big thing is I'll need the legal description.
Yeah, so we can get all that done, that's a good point. And then the other thing is, Commissioner Jackson, I mean, because you're just one of three.
One of three.
You're.
I'll bring back everything I've
You're gonna
got.
have to continue to bring back
Yep.
proposals, because you can't offer more than what we've already offered
Oh,
without the
absolutely.
three commissioners.
I totally
And
understand
we
my
can-
role.
And we can't just wait to have a once a week meeting. We may have to have several called meetings, public meetings, and have the three commissioners vote on anything that you
Absolutely.
decide to give that's more. I'm
I
willing-
will not offer anything that's more. I will
Yeah.
be listing him. I
Okay.
understand my role.
Yeah, and so, but we
and
can
I
have
cannot-
meetings every day if we have to.
Absolutely. I
We-
cannot
we need to get
speak
this
on behalf
done.
of all three of us. I can
Okay.
only have a conversation and try to come to some
Okay.
kind of consensus.
All right, yeah. Time
When
is-
are you expecting Mr. Billou to be back?
He's
He'll be back
yeah, he's
tomorrow.
in town, so he should be back this afternoon.
Start those conversations when he gets back with
It's
him?
not on our agenda for tomorrow, so technically,
Yeah.
no.
Okay.
That's the tough thing with the three of us. We have to be in a open public session, posted 24 hours in advance, or in a posted closed session, but then there's only a few topics we can discuss in closed session legally. So we don't have the ability to just have idle conversations, and that's why sometimes it becomes a little difficult and tense with us, because it's got to be in an appropriate setting, posted to the public, which limits how fast we can work.
Understood.
The irony of it, most citizens do not understand. Commissioner Jackson and I have an office on both sides of that courtroom on the second floor, and I can't go over there and see what he thinks about today. I've learned some things today. So we can't do that. Commissioner Blue's right across from the pop machine out there on the first floor. I can't walk over there and say, Commissioner Blue, what do you think about this? You can't do it unless you notify the public 24 hours ahead of time, and we have a meeting and you listen to see what. So when we do the work study sessions, usually upstairs, that's the time. Like the battery storage injury, we'll have 120 people up there on April 18th. That's when the public will get to hear the commissioners speak and ask questions to the experts coming from Texas, and I will get to hear, and they will get to hear each other talk, and we start to find some consensus of what we think. Because right now, we don't know when we have these meetings. Not always do we know, but that's the way it is. So, all right. Anything else today?
I have nothing.
Okay. Well, I'm a little bit disappointed, but I honestly believe let's just pray about this. Let's pray and get this